Hi and welcome back to the channel, and in this episode, believe it or not, we're working on a Mk2 Ford Escort rally car. We weren't sure if we were going to make a video about this little Mk2 Escort because initially it didn't need a great deal of work on it, or it didn't appear that way. However, this one is going to need just a little bit of tinkering to get it ready to go for the first rally of the season, and also to go to South Australia with us with the Forest Weapon and the VR4. So this particular car, the story is, I don't know a great deal of history about it. I believe it was built in Queensland quite some time ago. It's been around the east coast of Australia for quite a while. It has got a few really good bits and pieces in it on paper. It's got a full welding cage tower to tower. It's had a turreted rear end in it. It's got a 5-link rear end as well with all the Group 4 bits and pieces. Forest arches. I think it's got a World Cup cross member in it. A rebuilt 2-litre Pinto engine in it on twin side draft 45 Weber carburetors, I think. It's got a pedal box with remote reservoirs, extractors down there, and aluminium radiator. A whole bunch of cool stuff in it. Definitely on paper it seems to be the business. Suspension wise, it appears to have Bilsteins in it and 4-wheel disc brakes. We've been given the task of just getting it ready to rally and just going through and making sure that it's going to be good to go, and straight up we discovered some problems. So it does have Bilstein coilovers in it. Obviously we've removed those out of the car already, and we did that because we discovered that some of the seals that should be in the right places were not. So out with the damper straight away to see whether we can rebuild those or need to replace them. They're based on a Capri front strut by the look of it, and they've been modified to sort of very similar to what would have been a Group 4 Bilstein from back in the day. It does, however, appear to have standard tie rods on it and standard tie rod ends, and the same with the lower control arms and ball joints, and that ball joint is flogged out, and you can see the rubber's all shot on that, and the same with the tie rod end. Instead of using the sway bar, very common, especially in the Group 4 days, to run what they call a compression strut at the back instead, which is great. So it allows you to adjust caster. So it's got some right bits and pieces. However, it's kind of odd that they've got a lot of Group 4 bits, or certainly equivalent of Group 4 bits in it, and then they've got standard parts in there. That certainly looks like a standard lower control arm. Ball joints flogged out, same with the tie rod ends, and it doesn't have larger rack ends or tie rods on it, and so that's been causing a bit of problem because the suspension sits up quite tall, to get the ride height. It has been bottomed out, so basically these joints have all been sitting on their absolute maximum, there isn't any more travel on them. The ball joints have been bottomed out, and it made it extremely difficult to get these out of the car in the first place, because they're just not really suited to what the setup is of the car. So we're going to have to replace these. We'll put some rose jointed lower control arms in there, and put some better tie rods and tie rod ends in there, or at least tie rod ends, longer ones, that will allow us to get the correct angles on there so that everything isn't at its maximum limit. And then we're going to work out what we're going to do with the brakes. It looks like it's got some sort of Commodore brakes on it. I think they look like VL Commodore brakes. We've dealt with a set of these not long ago in another car, but we'll see how we go, trying to get some pads for that if needs be. Not going to be the easiest, I don't think. So let's have a look at some of the little things that we need to tackle on this car, and unfortunately the list seems to be growing a little bit. First up, we noticed, don't know whether the camera will pick that up or not. It will. See that? That is arcing, where the coil lead has been rubbing and arcing against the radiator. That's not a good start. That can do two things. One, it burns the coil out and can do all sorts of things, causes misfires, but it can actually also arc through and could make a hole in the radiator. So we're going to have to sort that out. It's not a big drama, but we'll have to work out on there. Probably just put a 90-degree cable on that one and change that over. So that's the first little one. Also noticed here coolant is leaking out of this. This is for a temperature gauge inside the car. However, I don't know whether the camera will pick that up. That's moving, so it's not tight enough there for some reason, and that is leaking. So there is coolant around there. Again, shouldn't be a major drama to sort that out. Have also noticed this bracket. Yeah, it's okay, but I think we might at a later stage, I don't know if we'll do it straight away, we'll see. It seems to be quite firm. It's not the tightest bracket, so we may need to get that sorted out and get that under control, just to make things a bit neater. Engine wise, it has got two small, very small, I've never seen fans that size. They're like thermo fans there of sorts. They are very, very tiny little thermo fans. We'll have to work out, they are wired to a switch inside the car and a relay, so we'll just make sure that all that works properly. The engine, the customer has been running the engine in. He bought it with the engine rebuilt, hadn't even been running, so he's done, I think, quite a few hundred kilometres or 1,000 kilometres or so of very steady sort of run in, which is good. Exactly what the engine needs, just to be ready to go. So that's the engine bay. Inside the car, and that's where some of the fun begins. So we're just in the process of pulling the seats out. The seats actually need to come out altogether. We've got some work to do. We'll show you that once we've got the seats out. But one of the first things I noticed was the way that this driver's side seatbelt mounting is put in. The actual eyelet is underneath the hydraulic handbrake master cylinder. And if I turn that camera around, hopefully you can see there that the pipe, the brake line, is actually between the harness and the seat. So the harness is holding the brake line in. And also on top of that, you just see down there, these are hard lines. The pipe's probably not that easy to see. Can we get in there? Not real easy. But anyway, there is, all the brake lines are actually touching the seats in there. So that's not great. We need to do something about that. They have used a metal hard line in it rather than braided lines. I don't know yet whether that is going to need to be replaced. We'll see what happens once we get the seats out. Another interesting point that we found is these fire extinguishers. I'm not sure when this car was last rallied. I haven't had a chance to look at the logbook. However, the date on these extinguishers when we checked them was 2012. Yeah, you're only allowed to have fire extinguishers in the car for 3 years before they need to be recertified. So either the car hasn't been rallied for a while, or maybe somebody's missed that memo. Certainly the tag was re-stamped in 2020, May 2020. However, that extinguisher is long out of date, so they've got to be piffed out. I'm not sure yet how these are mounted into that cross member. I don't know if they've got a nutset or whatever, but we've got to remove that anyway and get them out and get the seats out of the car. Now, why are we taking the seats out of the car? Well, we haven't had a real good look at this yet, but hopefully the camera will catch this. So basically these tubes are 25mm tubes there. The rules, we've talked about this, have changed, and they've now got to be 35. We put sort of a 40mm tube in there to comply. And there are some cases where they will allow these tubes, of whatever tubes are in there, to be left in there. However, this one has got welding here across the top and round the side. However, we can feel under there, and we put a mirror under there and had a look. There's no welding underneath at all. On top of that, there's no reinforcing plate at all on here. That's just welded straight onto the inner sill there, and the same on the tunnel side of the car, so that doesn't comply anyway. Also, this one, a bit of a ripper there. That is a factory stamping hole in there. Because there's no reinforcing plate there, there's no welding. That's literally held on by just that side there, and that's it, nothing underneath. So there's no way the scrutineers are going to let that pass, so we're going to have to cut these all out of the car and change them out and look at a different seat mounting system. Also, until we get the seats out, we're not kind of sure exactly how these seats, these rails here, are actually bolted to the seats themselves. I can feel a nut and a bolt under there, but we need to have a look and see what's actually happened under there. So yeah, straight up, we've got a few bits and pieces to do just around sort of a safety side of things. We have also removed the dash out of the car at the moment. The speedo wasn't working, and we are going to put a digital display in here because the tacho had a tolerance of about 3,000 RPM in it, so the tacho was actually just bouncing up and down. It wasn't actually really reading too accurately. That's not unusual for a 1970s Escort tacho really these days, but we'll put something a bit more accurate in there, particularly as this hasn't got electronic management in it. It's an old school way of doing things, so you know, it's very easy to over rev the motor if you don't sort of know what the RPM is doing. Something else, this car is fitted with electric power steering, and I'm not sure again whether the camera will pick that up too well, but that is household electrical earth wire, and I think that's connected up to the electric power steering, so that is a definite no-no from an electrical point of view. That's not real flash in there at all, so that's going to need to be looked into to see what's going on with the electrics. Also a bit further in, if the camera will show it, is the master cylinders for the pedal box. Now we did notice, we've got to wait till we put the brakes back together, but it appeared like the front brakes weren't doing a great deal. It should have a balance bar in there for a pedal box, but there doesn't appear to be an adjuster for the balance bar to be able to adjust the brake bias front to rear. So we're going to have to look into that and see what we can do with that, and then work out whether the brakes need bleeding or whether there's something else in the system that needs a bit of tinkering with it. In the boot, and there is the equivalent of a Group 4 fuel tank in there. It's nicely held down with ratchet straps. That does meet the requirements, believe it or not, but that's okay. And we've got the battery in there. That seems to be quite secure, so that's good. We have noticed though that some of the electrical circuits, there isn't an isolator as such in the line, and as soon as you hook the battery up, some of the stuff comes live in the car. So we'll have a look at the wiring and check all that out in a minute. Electrically wise, again with the camera will pick that up, that is the main battery cable there between the cage and the bodywork of the car. So I talked about this in a previous video. Basically they've changed the rules. So this kind of stuff here, where we've got cables running on the electrical cables running on the outside of the roll cage, they've changed those rules. You're not allowed to do that anymore, so we're going to have to reroute that cable. We should be able to just move it to the inside of the cage and sort that out. The factory fuse box looks like it's up inside there behind a bunch of cable ties that are in there. That is some sort of battery isolator in the back there. It's not very well lit, so hopefully the camera picks that up okay. This looks a little bit interesting. We're going to have to work out what's going on in that wiring behind there, and presumably it all comes around to the relays here, and we've got a few fuses and some switches and bits and pieces, like old school sort of stuff in there. We are intending to do away with some of this and change it out for some other more modern bits and pieces to do what we want, and we'll get around to that as we go. For the time being, it'll get a tidy up so that it's all safe and functional for the first event of the year, and then we'll work out the rest after that. The magic of television, and the seats are out on the co-driver's side of the car at the moment, and this all looks quite interesting. Straight up I noticed that the seat mount bracket was not flat on these rails or tubes underneath here. I had a look and I was like, okay, what's that? Some sort of spacer, and this is what it is. It is, how many washers we got there? 4 washers taped together that are sitting under there to use as spacers to tilt the seat back a bit further by the look of it. Whilst it's quite clever, it's not meeting the requirements, so that'll have to come out. Anyway, these whole rails are going to come out. Now those rails there, they've made a bracket, and that's actually what the seat bolts through. It should actually be bolted through this with a thread welded into it. That's what the regulations say. However, it is not. It's just got like a, looks like an L-shaped bracket they've welded on the front and the rear of the tubes. These ones are welded across the top, and yeah, there is a weld underneath. Same on those ones. So, okay, really, if they were going to do this, they should be C shape rather than just an L, and they should be welded down the side, which they're not. I mean, they don't comply anyway because there's no reinforcing plates on there. However, on the driver's side, maybe somebody forgot to do the welding because there's no welds in those at all. Not down the side, nothing. So the only weld is, there's a weld underneath it. So they've welded it underneath, and there's a clearer shot of how it's mounted on the inner sill there. These particular seats look like they're quite new. I wonder if they have been put in for the sale of the car and the original seats have been removed for some reason. Something that I did notice, regardless of how much I turn that bolt, it's not coming out. So something's gone wrong inside that seat. Maybe it's been over tightened or cross threaded or something's happened. It's possible that the nut inside there has snapped off or broken away on its mountings, whatever's happened. But basically that seat, and they do look like they're quite new seats actually, but that seat is unusable. We're not able to remove it, so therefore it's unsafe. We're probably going to have to cut that bolt off to be able to reuse those mounts. Alright, we're not reusing these seats in the car anyway. The customer supplied us with some other seats, so we will use those instead. Something else that's interesting. Maybe the camera won't pick it up that well. I don't know if you can see there. There's a dent, a quite a big dent there, and then on the top of the tunnel is actually dented down, so it's got a dish in it here. We couldn't work out, it looked like something had been dropped on there to start with, but I actually think that's been deliberately dented down so that there's clearance to screw the harness eyelet in underneath the hydraulic handbrake. Probably going to have to try and change the mounting positions of the eyelets for the side straps, or we're going to have to move the hydraulic handbrake. I'm not sure which yet. On this very warm autumn day in Perth, using an angle grinder and welding and cutting inside a car is always fun. It is always a very filthy job to do this sort of work, so we'll give this a bit of a clean up. There's still more to be done, but we'll vacuum it out now and then see what we've got underneath all of that. It got quite late in the day when we was trying to finish off getting the plates installed and welded in, so I didn't film all that. It's not that exciting watching welding anyway. So these are the plates for the seat mounting bars, which we've still got to cut and fabricate and get sorted in there. No big drama with that, just a bit time consuming, but that's all the welding done. As far as that stuff goes, probably still going to need to weld this up, probably weld a washer in here I think and seal these up completely. They are a factory bung. As it turned out, they were used for a harness eyelet. Pretty big hole to use for a harness eyelet. Anyway, we won't be able to use that because the bar is going to run right through here, so we'll weld those up and seal them because the new bars are going to be pretty much over the top of those. So we'll get that all sorted out and get on to cutting the bars out and getting them sorted and in the car. Hopefully the audio is going to come out okay over the sound of the fan in the background. It has been very warm the last few days. It's unusual weather given we're in autumn and we're still getting 40+ degree days anyway. So the seat mounting tubes are in now. All the other stuff's all cut out, obviously. Just got a squirt of primer, etch primer over it where all the bare metal is to get all that sorted out. And also had to just do a little bit of work on the factory cross member on the front. There'd been a bit of bodgery going on there. Wasn't that happy with it, so I've got that sorted out and then welded a reinforcing plate in on top of that as well, just to make sure that we are well and truly secure with these seats. We will need new seat rails now because the spacing between here and here is longer than before. Basically the old tubes used to be here and sort of here somewhere. They were very close together, but they were too far back and there wasn't enough adjustment. So anyway, we'll get that sorted out. That should be no major drama now that we have got this all welded in. Okay, after many hours and a lot of mucking about, we have got the interior sorted out as far as the seats go. And these seats, modern seats, are not so easy to fit into these small little cars like an Escort. Also gave the floor a good coat of paint to tidy up all of the welding and grinding and everything that we've done in there. Another interesting one that we had to sort out was the eyelets for the harnesses. They weren't brilliant, they weren't awesome at all, they were pretty ordinary to say the least on a few of them, funnily enough. So we got that sorted and managed to tidy that up on the inside. So anyway, that's that part of it done. Still a long way to go. The quick release steering wheel that they've put in the column, that was an interesting one as well. Still working on that to get that all sorted out and work out how that's all going to go together correctly. It seems okay, but the release ring to be able to release the wheel was actually tucked in behind the actual cowling for the steering column, so it was very difficult to get it off. Anyway, we don't have to worry about that anymore. We won't be refitting that cowling. We'll get that sorted out. Got the dash out at the moment because we're making the digital dash for it. We fitted some new fire extinguishers. The old ones from 2012 were definitely not legal to be used anymore, so some brand newies in there will sort that issue out. So at least we know that those sort of bits and pieces and the harnesses and the safety side of things in the car is pretty good. Time for an oil change and spark plugs and whatever. The spark plugs, we've changed them already, and also the coil lead that was shorting on the radiator on the corner here, we've now sorted that out. Just put a 90-degree one on a new lead. Also going to have to put some protection, probably convoluted tube around these, I think, because that's not great like that, especially leads rubbing against a metal surface like a rocker cover. They will definitely cause arcing, get misfires and potentially burn out a coil, so we don't want to do that. Right, we'll try and get a couple of bits of convoluted tube over these ignition leads. I'm kind of sure these ignition leads must have been a universal set or something, because the Escort ones generally go around the front and they all go through that same holder there. Right, that's neatened that up a bit, and just made sure then that those leads won't arc anywhere on the rocker cover. So we've changed over to spherical bearing or rose jointed lower control arms, which are much better and easier to work with, and also we're using longer Group 1 or Group 4 German RS elongated tie rod ends, which give us more adjustment, and also they're just longer, so they have a bit more travel in them, which allows us to get everything right, so it's not all bottoming out, and it actually has a lot more movement in it and range of motion, which is exactly what we want. All right, let's do the other side. Right, amongst all the tools and other bits and pieces all over the bench, this is what we've been working on in the background to fix up the factory dash and gauges, which were largely not working at all. So this is our own design digital display, and we have 3D printed a mount for it so that it will mount up inside the factory Escort dash mounting. And it's also on the back. You can see there, nothing too exciting there, it's just all printed up, so that looks quite neat. So it will have some analog displays in it as well, like indicators, charge light in there, and high beam. Everything else will be displayed on the actual dash in here. So this will have speed, RPM, oil pressure, and coolant temperature on there. We have to put sensors on the engine for the coolant temperature and the oil pressure. However, that's not too much of a major drama in the scheme of things. We do need to iron out a bit of wiring though. And that, ladies and gents, is where the fun begins. At the moment, just sort of going through, just identifying wires, things like the left and right indicator and whatnot. That's no big drama. However, behind here, I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up well. Yeah, a few interesting things in here. This wiring loom has been fiddled with at some point. It's probably the easiest way to put it. Finding bare wire connectors that can short against the metal of the back of the dash is not great. So we've got to try and tidy some of that up as well. Also in there is that wiring was to the electric power steering. However, we've disconnected that for the time being because we cannot have household earth wire driving, that sort of stuff. It's got to be rectified. We'll get around to that as we go. I think this thing's going to need a bit of a serious rewire to sort out some of this stuff here. For the time being, we'll tidy it up, make it all safe, and then get onto that as soon as we have the time to do so. Okay, we are working on the Escort, just getting the oil pressure and coolant temp sensor wired in for our digital display. Now, you'd think that'd be an easy thing. We've got a fair bit of mesh on the bench while we're working away here, and try to work out why the coolant temp is not working very well, and then came across this monstrosity. This is a plastic adapter. It's not even aluminium. That has been fitted in line in the top radiator hose, and don't know exactly what's happened here or why, who's thought this is a great idea, but basically this was just simply screwed in there. Appears to have some sort of glue like araldite, so epoxy of some description. They tried to glue it in there, and no wonder it was leaking. So we've got a couple of options here to sort this out. Not sure exactly what we're going to do yet, but we will work it out, being that it is already well on its way to 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and this thing's in a rally tomorrow. Anyway, we will sort this out. We overcame that issue by replacing that adapter with a brand new aluminium one with the correct size port in it, and screwed a new temperature sensor in. It was another late night sorting out a few bits and pieces. However, we got to the Windvale Stages rally the next morning on time. Planned as a shakedown for car and driver, this event would be the precursor to the Heartland rally only a few days away. The good news was that nothing went majorly wrong. We had a little issue with the thermostat and also with a broken spark plug lead. Back in the workshop the next day, and another electrical problem surfaced. This time the car wouldn't start at all. We discovered that there was faulty wiring to the ignition coil, so we sorted that out as well. Unfortunately, the fun's not over yet with this Escort. For a supposedly rebuilt engine, there's a lot of stuff that seems to have been reused. I don't know why that is, but it's got what appears to be an old distributor cap on there. There was a lot of corrosion inside there. An old rotor button as well, so we're in the process of just cleaning those up. Old leads. Obviously we replaced this one because it was shorting against the radiator. Old radiator hoses, old thermostat. What else have we found on there? That all seems to have not been replaced, which generally when we rebuild an engine we will change all those sort of bits and pieces, because especially on a rally car, because they they can cause failures or misfires and you're chasing them round and around the car in a rally on service. So yeah, things that we didn't quite have time to look into or sort out previously, we're just going through all that now to try and make sure that that's all looking good, and we'll chase down a brand new distributor cap for it. We'll clean this one up just to do things on it, and change out these suspicious leads as well, so that we've got some good leads. We'll keep those as spares. We'll keep this distributor cap as a spare, and the same with the rotor button, and hopefully that's the end of that. This distributor module, it fires up now, so hopefully we've got on top of the electrical drum with that. Otherwise we'll have to try and order a new one of those, or source a new one of those, I suspect, for a future job that'll be needed. Something else that we have noticed, and I'm not kind of sure what we're going to do about that, the vacuum advance module has been disconnected. So there's no vacuum advance at all now. Twin side draft Weber carburetors don't generate vacuum properly anyway because of the way that they work. So generally speaking, with these distributors, when you put one of these in with the twin side draft 45s to get your vacuum advance, usually you get the distributor regraphed so that the mechanical weights inside there help to do the work, and then you don't need to use a vacuum advance at all. Whether that's happened with this distributor, I don't know. It may be affecting the power at the top end slightly, but anyway, we haven't got time to sort all that out now. The rally's too close, so we'll just have to deal with what we've got. While we're at it, also discovered something interesting. There is no earth strap on this engine, so no strap between the body and the engine block. I'm not sure how the engine's getting an earth, probably for the exhaust or some other way at the moment, which is definitely not ideal, and that can cause electrical troubles on these engines, and charging faults as well, things like that. So we will add one of those to it. We'll order one of those and get that crimped and fitted up, because the battery is in the boot, and that is just terminated straight to the earth strap in the boot is terminated to the body of the car. So we need to get that from the body of the car to the engine to make sure that that all is going to be earthed correctly. There is other electrical troubles in there that we discovered late yesterday afternoon. We resolved the one with the coil and the ignition wiring that was stopping that, so that was under control, and now some more have surfaced. So we just have to keep working our way around this car to get it sorted so it's reliable. Righto, on to the main event, the Rally of the Heartland, where all the hard work had been heading. We've already got a video on the rally, so I'm not going to cover completely old ground. I'm just going to focus on the Escort. We started the event, no dramas at all, and day one went pretty much without a hitch. We had one minor thing with the suspension, however, nothing too serious. Day two, however, well, it went fine in the morning, no problem at all, and then I think about 2/3 of the way through the day, there was a problem, and it was actually the clutch. They basically lost the clutch altogether, and the boys had to stop on the side of the stage. They thought potentially it was a broken clutch cable or something like that. So we got a trailer out there, recovered the car back to the service park, and got stuck into it. Now, we weren't sure exactly what had happened there. There was a point there we thought, oh, the clutch has completely failed in the car. However, it appears maybe that it had a bent clutch fork. We're not sure. That is a common problem in Escorts. However, we noticed that there was a huge amount of slack in the clutch cable, and that we got into it and found that we might be able to tighten that up, the clutch cable, and we did. We basically wound it out to its maximum, and then there was we were able to get clutch in it. It wasn't a great deal, but it was enough to engage and disengage, and you could change gears and get the car moving. So we thought, right, we've got it sorted, we'll give it a go and send them back out again. However, they are also reporting that the car had developed a misfire, I think at somewhere around the same time, and it wasn't running that well. So, of course, logic dictates that the first thing we would look at is the spark plugs, because we had issues with that. When we looked at the spark plugs, pulled them all out and checked them all, they were all firing. So that then set us in another direction. If all the spark plugs are all working and they're firing, then we've got another issue. Next logical step would be carburation. And it's not uncommon with Weber carburetors. We've had it before in the past where one gets a tiny bit of grit or dust or something in it, and then it causes a misfire. And sometimes the way to sort that out is literally, just go out and run it and give it a good blast, and that can clear it, and it runs fine. Unfortunately, in this case, that wasn't the case. We did try that, and we sent the guys out to go and do another stage, and it was still misfiring and really lacking power pretty badly. So it seems that there was another issue. It could still have been carburation, or it could be something else. We weren't sure. We brought them back. They came back into service, and the intention was, well, let's get stuck into it, and we'll keep working on it to try and get it sorted. However, the guys decided, like, it was very close to the end of the day, let's call it for the day and not worry about it. We were going to work on it some more, and they're like, nah, don't worry about it. So then the following day, we were then, right, let's get into the Escort and get going. However, they decided, look, if the car wouldn't run at 100%, then it's not going to be that much fun, and let's just call it for the weekend. This definitely wasn't the outcome that we were looking for the Rally of the Heartland and for the car. Thankfully, it is undamaged. However,
it's very disappointing, especially given all the hours and hours and hours that we poured into the car and the huge efforts and late nights, early morning, bleary eyes, you know, to get it to the rally and in the rally for something mechanical to give us grief. Unfortunately, that is rallying or racing, and sometimes these things happen. As yet, we haven't had the opportunity to diagnose what the issue is with the car, so not able to report yet on what's causing the issue. I guess we'll find that out in due course. Anyway, in the meantime, hopefully you've enjoyed this shorter video on the Mk2 Escort, Group 4, quasi Group 4 car. Please give us a like, a thumbs up, it's important for the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe, and we'll catch you again soon. Cheers.